Interesting day with the contract signings for Montreal Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens have just signed Brendan Gallagher to a 6-year deal. For those French people who have joined us, le Canadien de Montréal six. Anyway, Gallagher signed for 6 years. So yep, the deal is 6 years long. It is $6 by $6.5 million, so it's quite a steep contract. And it's a good indication of why I don't comment on rumours sometimes on this channel. A lot of the rumours the last few days is that the talks had completely broken down between the two parties. They're not talking anymore, and it just didn't come from any real source, so I didn't want to report on it, just because I was like, I don't know, it just didn't have the same vibe as Max Pacioretty, where those two really just seem like they... Bergevin and Pacioretty, if they were in the same room, you could feel the tension. You could just feel it in the air, and I don't know. It didn't seem like it got there with Gallagher yet. So yeah, throughout the whole contract, there's a modified no trade clause and a no movement clause through it. The details of that are still up in the air, so that they should come out shortly. And there's a few signing bonuses with base salary moving up and down and things like that. So, no signing bonuses, but the base salary just all the way through. So towards the later end of this deal, you might be able to trade this in, especially in the last year when it's only $4 million in salary being spent. Originally, I'm always on the line of that's a lot of money for someone that scored 30 goals twice and really tops out at 50 points, but if you go through what the league sort of gives to players like this, like Chris Kreider and other sort of players that do give you grit and other factors, this is a pretty comparable contract. It's usually in the mid-sixes, it's usually about 6 years, and it's kind of the way that we're we don't really know what to do with players like you, so here's 6 by 6 and have fun. But Gallagher's a huge part of this franchise. Losing him would be losing a lot of the identity that beat the Penguins. It's that gritty, we won't go away kind of vibe, and Gallagher's probably the ringleader of that. So yeah, they had to get this deal done, really. You can't walk away from a few of the players. And the other thing with Bergevin is, and don't get me wrong, that Josh Anderson thing is, disgustingly bad, and that is going to really bite them it's really going to bite you in a few years' time. It may work out for 1 year, maybe 2, but... at some point you need it, that bill is going to come and someone's going to need to pay it, and it's probably Bergevin's job. That's going to be the last nail in the coffin, that one. But with the Pacioretty and everything failing with that talk, they were able to get Nick Suzuki in that trade, who was really, really good in the playoffs when they had him. So, yeah, I think it worked out. But yeah, originally I was a little bit might be a little bit too long, but... I don't think you retain a player like Gallagher in this league without paying this sort of contract. And as long as he keeps a certain standard, he'll always retain value. It's not quite too bad, it puts him at 34, 35 years old. He may tailor off in that little bit at the end there, but you're getting a really good player for most of that. Then the weird one, which isn't so weird. I originally, when they made this trade for Jake Allen, I was a bit woof. And then I remembered his numbers last season as a backup were really strong. He had a .927 save percentage in 24 games. Yeah, he just seems to have really fit as a super backup. And so I kind of wondered if they were going to give him a show-me year and then, maybe put him at, a $3 million contract or something on those lines. They've just re-upped him for 2 years now at $2.875 million. So he's actually on this team for the next 3 years. With a very strong goalie market out there, a very weak, strong goalies, and there's a lot of goalies out there, so the trade market's not really there. If you saw what Matt Murray got, I don't think Jake Allen is going to get any sort of reward in a trade just because of what happened there at the Blues. He never really matured as a starter. However, he's a super backup, and I thought the trade was good. All that really happened was they traded a third plus, swapped some sevenths around for a backup in what could be a truncated season to give a bit of protection. But now doing this for 3 years, it's a pretty expensive backup. I don't hate the deal if he does come through, but this is another thing of why is Montreal... I want to say swinging to the fences, but it's not really swinging to the fences because they're paying, if anything, overvalued for these monies like Anderson and Jake Allen, in the hope that they may be the player that is worth that amount of money, if not maybe a little bit less. And it's just odd. Usually people make take a salary hit and sign them long for maybe 4 or 5 years at like $3 or $4 million. If they think, yeah, like this guy might get it back together and might be a superstar, and if they don't, well, then we've got to work that out. But you take that calculated risk. These are really weird risks that they're taking. Like, this is odd, because the last few years with Jake Allen that he wasn't very good as a starter, but as a backup he's got it together? Or was last season the anomaly? It was that he got it together and back down goes to earth in the next season. So I just thought you'd give him a couple of games or see him in training camp or just see what you've got there before you just completely bought in. But yeah, they're weaponizing their cap space, but it's just in very weird ways. So yeah, I don't know what this team is quite doing right now. Super glad that they kept Gallagher, but he just kind of seems like a Montreal Canadien, doesn't he? Like at this point. Yeah, I can't picture him on another team. Maybe the Flyers. Yeah, I could really picture him on the Flyers just being a massive shit on that team, eh? But no, he's a Canadian. Yeah, that looks like Price might have it back together. There's a few things that this team's on the up and up. They've got some good young core. They've got some good young depth that they can sort of build upon and go from there. Anyway, guys, that is the whole video. If you did like this video, hit the like button. Otherwise, hit subscribe if you made it all this way and you haven't subscribed, because that really helps us out the most. But yeah, and comment down below, what do you think of these deals? It's fascinating. Like, the Gallagher one's a pretty fair contract, to be honest. Like, if you compare it to some others that have scored 30 goals, you know what, Montreal may have got off a little bit lightly. But that Jake Allen one, if it was by itself on a loan and Josh Anderson contract didn't exist and a couple of the other ones that have been on the books over the years, Olsner comes to mind, you'd be like, oh, okay, they're taking a calculated risk at 2.8. But then you kind of add a few of those up and you're like, ooh, what are you doing? I think the real crazy thing is, and I probably should have put this in the middle of the video, not now, but they've only got $16 million in cap space next year. And they've got a few big, like Deno, Kotkaniemi, come off the books. So, they're going to get paid, man. They're really going to get paid. There's a few other players, and then you got, Suzuki the year after. I know Thomas Tatar falling off the books probably helps his team, even though he was handy last year. But yeah, there's a lot of cap just being held up in a few players. Also brought in Toffoli too. I forgot about Toffoli. So I think that's a really savvy deal. It seems like this team, they make one good deal and then they just make one that makes you scratch your head a bit. So who knows what they're going to do next, man. This is crazy. Joel Edmondson is another prime example of just what are you doing? But yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a great day. See you and bye.